Okay, in this final assignment for the class, you're going to be creating an infographic. And here's just a brief introduction to what those are. They're very popular these days. You've probably seen them before. Here's an example of I think, a pretty decent infographic. It uses what is typically a pie graph, and instead of the basic fill colors, it uses vector graphics of various animals, talking about biodiversity. With these infographics, the idea is that you want to use very specific information or data, and you want to present it in an easily understood comparison. For instance, in this example, you see there's purebred dogs are compared to twins because purebred dogs often look very similar, but unlike twins, their identities are much different. Their biological information are much different than those of twins. So it's a very obvious comparison, and it's pared down. Hans Rosling, he's probably best known for his animated infographics. His mission is really to take lots of information, condense it down into very easily understood statistics. So he takes what's typically very difficult to understand and makes it very easily understood. You want to be obvious, and you want to use obvious visual cues in this. And so at first you see this is about a foot, and then you see the title, Global Carbon Footprint. Well, at the outset, this looks like a very simple infographic, but there's lots of information, like the Hans Rosling animations. But the difference is you'll be taking just one thing and comparing it to something that's very commonplace, if you will. So this looks simple, and that's because you're trying to simplify information so it's more easily understood. But you can use visual cues like this to prompt your audience to understand what this is about before they even read the information. Here's another obvious visual cue. This is about facts behind food prices. And you see sliced up corn. So you know it's about a food product. Use your skills with composition that you've already learned. Here's a cross-corner composition, and this talks about the job search process and what goes into it and eventually getting hired. So about presenting yourself for the job market. And here's another cross-corner composition talking about what happens in an internet minute. I love this graphic. And lastly, using pictures against a white background helps to create a simple, high contrast infographic. For you guys, I want you to keep it super simple. KISS, this acronym is really important for this project because you might have something that's very complicated and you want to simplify that down. And I think the example we looked at first is a very good and doable example for you guys. I'm not expecting you to be data analysts and simplify something that's overly complex, but instead maybe find a subject that is more easily described in a visual format. And remember, you're going to do a visual comparison, or an informational comparison in this case. Often the case with infographics, if you type in infographic online, you'll see lots of them that give you too much information. So for instance here, the trouble with this infographic is there's lots of helpful information about tea, but it employs pie graphs, and looks like there are 3 different pie graphs here. There are 2 bar graphs, and there are infographics within the entire infographic. Remember, bar and pie graphs are infographics in and of themselves, and they help us to understand something about proportions. So you might not want to include bar graphs and pie graphs for that reason. They're already infographics. And this really could be pared down. And again here, we see the same thing. Lots of graphs within a big infographic. It doesn't really simplify the information. And that's your job, is to quickly and easily visually communicate what you are comparing. The media that you're going to use. Really just text, vector graphics like you've created in unit number 3, the poster project, and also images. You can combine these in whatever ways is necessary to help communicate the point that you're trying to make. And remember, this is a visual comparison of something that is complicated, and you're trying to simplify it using some familiar images that help tell the story. Good luck.